We're here with Erik Budsberg, and you are in charge of the Plains project that Becky talked about, right?
Yeah, the prairie restoration.
Prairie restoration. Mm-hmm. Prairie, plains, okay.
Yeah.
I see certain things when I say that,
yeah.
which is actually true and what you're doing out there. And tell me about that project, and that you kind of decided that let's not go the easy route, let's take the more difficult, challenging route on that. And where are we now, and where are we going?
Yeah.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, essentially the prairie restoration project is something we've had in the works for a few years now.
Okay.
Our official launch, I want to say, was May of 2019, but everything before 2020 is kind of blurred together.
Yes, no kidding.
But yeah, it's a project that we're taking on to take on. It's about 120 acres of land that we have.
Okay.
That is land that universities owned since about the mid-60s. And it's land that originally, when we purchased the land from the neighboring farmer, the intent was campus would expand out that way.
Sure.
As time goes on, we realize that expanding a campus is not the right idea. It's more about infill. So we want to centralize our campus. That allows us to have a more community feel on our campus and not be so spread out.
Easier to walk and everything else that goes with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we've had this land that has just, for the most part, we've just leased out to a local farmer for a long time, just to kind of take care of the land as the university figured out what we'd like to do. And as time moved on, we realized that a better use of the land for a university is to create learning opportunities out of that. And for us, that means looking at what we can do to connect to our biology program, our geosciences program, a lot of interdisciplinary learning opportunities across a whole bunch of other departments. And in doing so and looking at that land, we realized there's a lot of potential there if we were to restore it back to its native habitat, which would have been Palouse Prairie. How
do you know what it was?
Well, that's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
We don't entirely know what it was. Is the short of it.
Okay.
And that's something that our biologists are looking at it, our geologists are looking at it from the soils perspective. And it's kind of the idea of, we have a general sense of what this land looked like.
Okay.
We can look at little remnants of land, basically like little eyebrows. If you go out and drive around the Palouse, you'll see those really steep slopes that they've never been able to get a tractor on.
Right.
And so those slopes contain that vegetation that would have been here.
Okay.
So we can kind of look at those and then piece that out.
So you can kind of hit the target at 90 to 95%, really good estimate.
Yeah, that's kind of the approach in what we're shooting for.
Right.
So it's kind of looking at what's been left. But as a whole, the Palouse as a habitat or ecosystem, it's over 99% of it has been converted into agriculture or development over the last couple hundred years. So we don't really have much left. And so that's really why it's important for us to look at this little piece that's left, the little pieces that are left, and try and do what we can to try and protect this important ecosystem and understand how you can do effective restoration on it.
What have you found out there?
So far?
Yes.
On our site or any of the other sites?
No, the site out here.
It's something that's been in traditional agriculture for, we know for sure since the 60s because we've owned it and we've leased it out.
Right.
And before then, it's been in farming for a long time.
Sure.
So what we have out there is kind of the product of farming now over a couple hundred years. And so your soils out there look different than if they were to be of native habitat.
Sure.
And the plants out there are all those that are pretty much tied to farming production too. So it's resembles much more of a farming based system right now than it does a natural habitat.
Did I hear it was a skeet shooting or something like that? Something like that going on out there?
Yeah, that's something that Dr. Nazat can expand on as well. But I don't know when we stopped allowing skeet shooting on campus. It's probably been a while since we've allowed guns on campus.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, we used to have a student club out there, and they go out there and do trap shooting out there on the range. And through that, we found a lot of remnants. You can actually still walk out there and find old, what are the clay pigeons?
Sure.
Still running around on the site.
Yeah. So. Oh, fun. Did you find anything else of real interest out there? My guess it was probably pretty hard if it was hard to find a lot of other things if it was farmland.
Yeah.
I mean, that really limits your ability for the last probably couple of hundred years. It's been farmland, and therefore everything's been dug in and so forth. But
yeah, we actually, through our archaeology department, it's kind of a mix between our geography and archaeology department. We've had some students who've done archaeological type digs out there. One student who's working on his master's thesis kind of looking at those things. And my understanding is, as of this point, we haven't found anything of significance from that standpoint. Because like you said, it's been under constant tillage for a couple hundred years, and that tends to wipe clean anything that they've been out there before.
Or at least disseminate it over more property or whatever. And So what's next?
So our big step happened actually just this fall. Big thing we needed to do was develop a pilot site. So we've got 120 acres we're looking to develop, but we need to learn how to get to that 120 acres.
Okay.
There are a lot of groups in the area, or some folks in the area who've been doing prairie restoration for a while, and they've been doing a really good job putting it together, but we wanted to figure out what prairie restoration actually meant for us on our site.
Sure.
We have certain characteristics that are special to us in terms of soil composition, how the kind of essentially the weather moves through the area for us, things
Yes.
that we want to look at and get an understanding, so we have an idea of how our plants will establish.
And you have that pretty much done, I would guess. A lot of the weather and
Yes.
what's been done over the past and so forth.
We've done a lot
We're going to
of-
discover some more, of course.
Yeah, we've done a lot of the baseline data collection.
Right.
So really the next step for us was getting a pilot site established.
Oh, okay.
And so we did that this fall. We worked with a kind of like a local farming group based out of the Moses Lake area.
Okay.
And they came out and did a big seed planting for us over about 13 acres.
Ah, okay.
And so over those 13 acres, they brought out their farming equipment, and we were able to drill seed or put these little small tiny native seeds that just barely under the surface of the soil where they established the best, and laid them out on the site. And the way they were, for the most part, put out on the site was kind of designed by research out of Dr. Brown's lab.
Wow.
And setting up a pilot site that will allow us to look at different plant compositions
Right.
and kind of ratios of different types of plants to each other to see what it establishes more effectively over time.
Okay. So when will you have some answers from that, do you think? Is that a year or two project, 3 years?
We will continue to collect data on it for
Yeah.
the next 30 plus years.
Okay.
Restoration is a long process. It's something we're in for the long game, so to speak. We're
Right.
thinking not about the university just a year from now and what our students can learn from it, but we're also thinking about what we can teach about our students in our community 30 years from now. So this is
Yes.
an ongoing
Yes.
project. So every year we'll learn something new out of it. And plant restoration, especially native plant restoration, takes a while. It takes a few years before you really
Sure.
start to see the big gains, because those plants really have to develop dense root networks before they're able to do a lot of propagation above ground, so to speak, or what you would really see.
Wow.
So,
Wow. But you kind of want to know right away, don't you?
oh yeah, of course. And we do have good ideas of kind of where we're going to be moving to. And
Sure.
like I mentioned, there are groups that have been doing this conservation, reconstruction, restoration work, and they have pretty good idea of what it will look like. And so what we're able to do is kind of use their knowledge, and we can look at that for the bigger picture. But what we wanted to do too is figure out how to create those learning opportunities for students and our faculty, and also answer questions that those other groups have been potentially unable to answer
Right,
to this point.
right.
So it's adding to the knowledge of the science of the restoration, as well as figuring out how it works for us.
Do you think you'll be able to go back and discover some things? I think back to our Native Americans and their history of being in this area. Are you probably hoping to find some things, but do you think you will?
Yeah, it's a really important thing for us to be figuring out here at Eastern and having those conversations. When we first started the project, one of the first things we went and did was talk with the Spokane Tribal Council.
Okay.
We do sit on the traditional homelands with the Spokane tribe here. And so we wanted to first talk with them and let
Right.
us know about our intentions for what we wanted to do with this project.
How'd they react?
They were very supportive.
Good.
When we had the official launch of the project, Chairwoman Carol Evans came out, and she was our keynote speaker for the event.
Oh, fine.
And really helped launch that project. And then since then, we've continued to work with the Spokane tribe and with some of their researchers and scientists in having to start to develop out an understanding of how do we essentially grow these native plants, how do we propagate them,
Right.
what plants are going to work well in what ecosystems and soil types, and then it's really kind of a shared process as we kind of are able to share our resources with what we know on how to establish these plants within our small setting here. And we also have the facility to grow some plants here, so we can grow and then share these plants together. But the amount of indigenous knowledge and science that they bring to the table is incredible for us to learn from, and that's been just
For
an
both
amazing
ways.
experience. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a great opportunity
Yeah.
for some of their students to become experts in this area too.
Absolutely.
You know, to come to Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. We really want to build those collaborative relationships
Yeah.
and continue that work, so that's a shared process of understanding this
Right.
knowledge together and working collectively.
Well, I think we all wonder what were things really like hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we really do. We think we know. We think we read about it here and there, but we continue to learn new things.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Learning new things.
Yeah, as a
Yeah.
human species, we've done a lot to really alter our ecosystems over the last few hundred
Yeah.
years, and I think it's really important to understand what it was like before we had such a big impact in the area too. As we talk about sustainability and addressing climate change, these are important things that we have to understand as we start to kind of understand the influence we've had on our environment as well.
I know it's hard to tell by what you say, but are you excited about this?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, personally and professionally,
Yes,
as well as
absolutely.
with your students and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's the Prairie
Prairie Restoration
Project.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be showing some of it during this as well. So
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you, Erik.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Experts at EWU.